Hello, I'm Regina McCann-Hess, President of Forge Wealth Management, and welcome to our Women in Wealth series. Today, I have a new friend with me, and Trixie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are, what you do, and what you love about what you do?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Very much appreciate it. And I would say I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been started my first company at 14 years old. What can I tell you? It was Trixie's tutor time, and it was written with magic markers on old computer paper with the bubbles on the side. So
Nice.
I realized very quickly, very early on, that where there's a will, there's a way, and I really wanted to do something effective that would help and motivate, inspire, create jobs. My family came from Cuba. Housing was always very important to us, right? As was, family and things like that. But I think from a very young age, I realized that, everyone deserves a home, right? Whether they're owning it, renting it, or whatever. I think a big passion for that came at a young age, and started several companies, one with a phone and a desk, like the tiniest desk you've ever seen. Is quite the adventure. My first employee was 14 years old, a girl named Brittany. She was working for a prom dress. She then had the audacity to get the lead in the high school play. I think it was Bye Bye Birdie. So now my phones weren't going to be answered from 3 to 5 p.m. Now we had to bring on her best friend, also named Brittany. And these two incredible powerhouse women are still with me today. We have built and sold companies together. Everybody's grown up. And I think just the unity of women empowering women, right? And being able to say, okay, here's a problem. How are we going to tackle that? How are we going to work together? And a lot of times my ideas are awful. They're horrible. And their job is to tell me that, right? And so to be able to empower each other, to have that safe place, to be able to say, yes, I agree, or no, that doesn't sound right, or whatever it may be, and create a culture where we've had, anywhere from a small shop to hundreds of employees. That first company I'm telling you about, we ended up selling that to Goldman Sachs. After having heard for years and years, you'll never make it, you don't look the part, you don't fit the part, da 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 da. Just tuned that out, right? And the other company that I had started at the exact same time, one was a lending company, Genesis Capital, which we sold to Goldman. Second one was an online auction company that started as Genesis Auctions, later became Hudson Marshall. We sold that one to Fidelity. So we learned a lot. I learned a lot in selling both of those companies within 9 months of each other. Let me tell you, that's a whole nother episode. And I need it's okay. So that was, I wanted so badly to learn what this looked like, right? That I didn't stop and think like, okay, it's 30-1. It didn't matter. It was, this is my baby. These are my companies that it's blood, sweat, and tears. And I want to make sure that I am, packaging it right, that I am setting it up for the next person that's going to be my successor to be able to, take the baby to college, so to speak. And so it's been quite the adventure. And as a result of that, you have all these non-competes and don't do this, don't do that, don't pass go, don't collect $200, right? And so what do you do when you've got a bunch of smart people that aren't going to be in real estate or finance? You naturally start your own little Shark Tank, family office type of a thing. And so we started investing into other entrepreneurs in completely different segments and industries and businesses. And I think that was such an amazing experience because A, we learned from all these entrepreneurs, but B, we also were able to say, hey, you know what? Business is business, right? When you practice and implement good business practices across the board, you're able to maneuver and learn new things. And like I tell the team, walk and chew gum, right? And so anyway, all of that to say, I think that we looked the other day and we were like, wow, we've invested in over 50 companies, just a small little engine that could, right? Like it wasn't like we out, so anyway, all that to say that the passion and the drive is to be able to inspire others and say, hey, listen, if I did it, you can do it. And if I can avoid, any pitfalls that I fell into and any scraped knees that I fell down or any arrows in my back, right? Like happy to share that and to be able to hopefully add value to others, because being, a woman in business is not always a walk in the park, right? We definitely carry a lot of plates that we juggle. And I think that there's a lot to be said about how we can, really help each other out in many ways.
That's incredible. Wow, what an amazing story. I'm so blown away. It's so awesome.
You know, it was very, very, very blessed, very lucky to have that and want to really be able to add value.
Yeah, yeah. I'm also talk about adding value as well on my side. So I love that phrase because it makes you think, all right, what else can I do? What else can I help them with? So I think we're definitely thinking along the same lines. So you have had many companies, my goodness. And what are you working on now?
Well, naturally, you start as a lender, you know, you're always a lender, right? You look at the world a certain way. So back at it, you know, back at it round two, a company called TRX. And so it's like the bigger, better, faster version, right? Really enjoy it. The gang's back together, the team's working together. A lot of us are. And, you know, it's a different feeling because we don't feel like we're doing this, like trying to figure it out. Now we're like, okay, let's actually have a plan. And so it's a really neat experience. So doing that and all finance, real estate related for the most part, but enjoy all sorts of businesses that you know we just kind of have our hands in that we've learned from other experts in their fields, right? So other women in business have really taught us along the way their passions and what they do. And I was going to say one of the things that I so much admire about what you're doing is you're bringing light to finance, money, wealth, and women. And I can tell you from personal experience that that has been such a uphill battle that I want to scream from the rooftops and say, hey, it is not only okay to talk about money, it is an absolute necessity, right? And so regardless if we work at A, B, or C, or we have this company or that company, we as women, we are the brand, we are the business, right? And no matter
Yeah.
what aspect. So why shouldn't we be able to speak about it and to really look at our investment strategies and be able to talk about them and share with each other, right? So I really commend you for what you're doing. And I think it needs to be done, you know, incredibly tenfold, right? So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that compliment very much so. And like you, I am always advocating for women to be part of the conversation and, you know, definitely have a part in their own investments and finances and financial planning. And one of my favorite things that I like to say is, you know, a kitchen table conversation because it takes the scariness away. But also, we were raised. I don't know if you were, but a lot of people I know were raised. The family doesn't talk about the money; it's a taboo topic, and you talk about almost anything at the dinner table except money or finances. So I'm trying to bring those conversations back to the back to the kitchen table like a Sunday morning conversation, and to make it like normalized and make it okay to have those conversations. And because not only that, but women are going to control most of the wealth in the country in the next several years, and we need to know how to do it. And a lot of that research that's done, once we do get comfortable with it, we're much better at sticking to a plan than our male counterparts. So
Yeah.
all over that idea.
I love that. I'm like, say it one more time. Women will control a large part of, I love it, of the wealth. I think
Yes, that'll
that's
be fun. Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. So if people want to learn more about you and what you're doing, where would they go to find out more information?
So I have a website, trixycastro.com. They can find me there on LinkedIn. This is all new to me. I've been behind the scenes building the companies and never forward facing. And I thought, the whole reason I wanted to do this was to be able to add value, right? And so it's time to get out there and share the story and have, any sort of interaction where it can be helpful. So the website or LinkedIn for me would be great.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, and just to follow along would be just fascinating to follow you along with your journey because you've done so many different things, and not many people can say they're an entrepreneur, but you can. You're like a serial entrepreneur, which
It's a
is
problem.
awesome.
Well, it's so funny. I was talking about this with someone yesterday, as a matter of fact. And I said, look, you just look at the world differently, right? So I hear a problem. Well, first of all, you say hi to me and I assume we're friends, right? Like someone's walking, I'm like, oh, they said hello, we're friends. So take that with a grain of salt when I say the next piece that I hear a problem and now I want to fix it, right? But I take a step back and think, okay, if this is a problem for me, let's say in this industry, how many others have this problem? So how do we find a way to solve for it and monetize it, right? So I look at it and think so much is like how we look at it, how we think of it, right? Like for me, I realize the hindrance starts and stops up here, right? So if I can stop and change the way I'm thinking about it, instead of like, oh my gosh, panic, can't breathe, it's a problem, and really stop and look at it and think, okay, we're highly intelligent women, right? We're sitting here in the workforce, we're doing things that, you know, require a lot of thought, a lot of finesse, and oftentimes a lot of strategic planning. So if we look at it and we think through, all right, here's the problem, here's the solution, how I would do it, how many others would need that solution too, right? So a lot of these things were birthed as a problem. Like, as a matter of fact, the auction company, I wish I could tell you that I had this great vision and it came to me. No, it was my clients on the lending side saying to me, hey, Trix. And when you call me Trix, that means we're like friends, right? And they said to me, you know, we're having trouble sourcing the inventory. At that time, it was the REO. And so I took that and I thought, I heard it once, I heard it twice. And I thought, my God, like, I got to get involved, right? I have to help. So creating the online auction company to dispose of these assets for the banks and servicers, which is what it eventually became, came as a result of hearing their problem and trying to think of a way to help be that solution, right? And then it was like, oh, wow, wait a second. Now I realize this has a problem and this has a problem. And all of a sudden it became a thing. And, you know, you look back and you're like, whoa, like I didn't realize that's what it could become, right? But we just made our thinking.
Yeah.
Or at least I didn't.
Maybe it's so impressive.
So
Very
who knows,
cool.
maybe I did, but it wasn't this like, you know, I unfortunately, I didn't go to business school. I was already in the workforce. I made sure that as many in my team have, right? And I pushed that education. Is so incredible. But what I did learn was that when you combine those skill sets, right? When you combine what we've learned, whether it's academically, whether it's in the day-to-day, and you build that together and utilizing the data and the people, like you can build an unstoppable machine. Whereas when I first got into business, all I could go off of was gut because I was still in college. So I lived in a dorm room and it was like trying to figure out, you know, how do I get to class on time, finish my assignments, study for finals, and put this, you know, put this all together. And so I guess I learned time management.
Most effectively, I'm sure.
Yeah. Or, you know, try every day. I try every day.
So you're kind of already answering my next question in a different sense, but one of the things I like to ask is, you know, tell us about the challenges you have faced as a professional woman.
Oh, the challenge is, where do we start, right? Like pick a topic, any topic, and I feel like I've lived it. You know, you kind of feel like you've lived many lives in some way.
Yeah.
And I think that the challenges, going back to, are up here, because we're going to hear a lot, you know, and like I started, you know, mentioned a minute ago, I heard a lot of all the reasons why you're not going to make it, why this won't work. It was too much of like a new concept, right? To take something and make it private money rather than like a hard money shop. And it was to institutionalize it. And why would Wall Street want to get involved? And your loans are too short. So wait a second, on one side, you're telling me my 3-month loans are a good thing and I have no defaults. And on the other side, you're telling me like I'm being punished for it, right? So I really learned very early on to tune out the noise, to identify, here's my goal, and I'm going to work backwards. And the rest that doesn't help me achieve that goal, right? It's noise. And I think that was probably the biggest thing that helped me as an individual, because it forced me every day to be centered, right? And to remember the goal, and to remember that, like, just because I think this or this person thinks that, they're not the expert, right? They're the expert in what they do, maybe, right? I'm trying to learn this. I'm trying to build A, B, and C. So I've got to stay focused and just take what I want to learn, process that, and keep going. And I think that oftentimes as women, the challenge is we're told to do the exact opposite of that. We're told to be the pleaser. So the challenge becomes, and you're told you're not allowed to talk about this, you're not allowed to look like this, you're not allowed to, you know, ever be stressed, oh my gosh, or ever be tired, or ever feel like you're complaining, right? You're not allowed to, like, don't be human, okay? And while you're not being a human, make sure that you don't create a wave, you don't do A, B, and C, and we're taught to just please whoever is unhappy on the other side. When in reality, that's a hindrance. That's a challenge because it's all day, every day, no matter where you look. So I realized that's going to be like, I can't change that. I can just change how I respond to it. So when I think of challenges, that one was probably one of the biggest ones because it wasn't a problem I could fix, which being the fixer, that's a thing, right? So I thought,
Right.
okay, how can I change how I respond and view that in myself? And I think that that is a big challenge that we as women, we're not aware of because we're just going, going, going. We don't have time to put a plate down to think about if that plate really needs to be spun. We don't have time. We got to keep going. We're going to do this, and then pretend to like be okay with it and like, nope, I never get tired. Nope, and that's not reality.
So true. So true.
So
Speaking to the choir.
yeah, I tell women all the time, like, like find that goal that you want, and it can be personal and it can be in business and it can be whatever. Work backwards and just stick to that and remember that the rest is noise, right? Like if like they give the example, if I put on a pair of jeans and they don't fit, it's not my fault. That's the designer's fault. They made it wrong. And you have to have that. You know what I mean? That you kind of have to have that thinking and a little bit of levity to it. Like, hey, we're not all going to fit the same mold. We're not all going to, march to the beat of the same drum, and that's okay. And if we normalize that and we make that okay in ourselves, then what do we care what the rest of the world is telling us? You're not so quick to like hyperventilate to fix a problem on the other side for whomever, which is
True.
usually what we have to do. That becomes our source of value. What can you do for me lately becomes and equates to that is your value. So when people tried to put that on me, I was like, okay, well, I'm not, in one ear, out the other, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I know that you are full of energy and have a lot to do, and I think you're going to accomplish way more. But let's take a trip in the time machine and tell me, what is your retirement vision?
So I am a planner. I even planned when I wanted to have my kids. I have two little boys. I plan everything as best as I can, right? And then, life happens, but you have at least some sort of an idea. And retirement to me looks like just a smidge less than what I'm doing today because
That's awesome.
and so it just really looks like following that passion, right? So if you'd asked me that a year ago or 2 years ago, I would have said I want to be able to tell the story. I want to be able to go out and add value to other women, to other entrepreneurs, to kids, to anyone that is looking to make any growth for themselves. That's what I would have changed, right? So here we are today, same kind of idea, same question. I would just do more of that, a little bit more of that, more of being able to add that value. Because as far as deals, I'm in businesses, I can't help myself. I'm like a deal junkie. I love it. I live off of like helping other people like accomplish their goals. It's just the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced.
Oh, that's fabulous. I love it. I have so enjoyed learning more about you. Thanks for sharing all this, your story. I loved your story. You are just going to keep on going, like the Energizer Bunny Rabbit, it sounds like.
Well, I'm excited to have the opportunity, and as long as I can, I absolutely will. So I'm very excited about it. Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you do and how you are out really helping us women be comfortable around money, because that is something that just such a big passion of mine. So thank you on behalf of all of us for what you're doing.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I think our call to action today for everyone listening should be to, see where they can add value in their lives and those for those around them, while also taking care of themselves, because that's something we all need to do as well as women. So that's what I think we're gonna leave everyone with today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining me. And again, thanks everyone else for joining us. Regina McCann-Hess, president of Forge Wealth. And my website is forgewealth.com. You can follow me on Facebook at Forge Wealth, Insta at Forge Wealth Management, and LinkedIn, Regina McCann-Hess.